welcome all of you. And my name is Gary Schleifer, obviously, because I invited you. I'm the publisher of Choice, the magazine of professional coaching. I've been a coach for 24, what's this, the second week of February? 24 years and 1 month. Just crazy things I remember. Publishing Choice for over 22 years. In 2027, we'll have our 25th anniversary. I look forward to seeing you all online for some events we got planned. But enough about me. That's not why you're here. Well, sort of through me, but you want to really hear from Kim. So, Kim, frame of mind, journal engine. Oh my goodness, I've known her for so long and a couple of iterations. Absolutely love what she does, what she offers, and I'm so glad to have you here, Kim, to speak to these people and have this masterclass. So I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Gary, for hosting this amazing event. I'm delighted to be here and I'm delighted that all of you are with me. And what I'm going to do just right away is I'm going to share my screen. And I love interaction before I do share my screen. So please, you can either verbally speak up, we're a small group, or you can write whatever you want in the chat group in the chat room, not the group, the chat room. The more you do, the funner it is. So please, please, please participate. I invite that. So we're going to go here. Can everyone see what I have? I'm just going to
I can
open it
see
up.
it.
There we go. Can you see it?
The one
It,
coaching obsession. Yes.
yes. So I'm going to share my coaching obsession, but I will share it with you as I get into the presentation a little bit more and talk a little bit more about what it is that I have been obsessed with since the beginning of time, since the beginning of the time that I started coaching. So let's just jump in again, just some highlights about me. Who am I? I am the president and founder of Frame of Mind Coaching, and we've been coaching leaders, executives, entrepreneurs for over 20 years. I've got a team of coaches in Canada and the US, and I have a software program called Journal Engine that we license out to other coaches, speakers, trainers, facilitators, etc. And I'm interested in how leaders think and how their thinking impacts their outcomes and their results. I am a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm an author. I do all the things that most coaches do. Nothing exciting there. But for whatever reason, people think that the most impressive feature about me is that I'm the mother of 5 young adults. And for those of you who just kind of want to get a glimpse into what that looks like, here it is. Here's the brood or the crew. And this one here is my daughter, Fernie. She's mini me. And she actually sometimes does these webinars with me. So welcome to me. Welcome to my family. So I want to start off by saying this. As I mentioned before, we coach the highly driven population. And what we've discovered is that they tend to have 4 areas of struggle that are consistent from person to person, industry to industry, location to location. And as I speak to the struggles that my clients have, I kind of invite you to ask yourselves 2 questions. Are these the struggles of my clients? And perhaps, are these my struggles? Okay, so just think about it like that. So we've categorized them in four ways. Number one is that we notice that a lot of people feel very isolated. And what that means is they typically have a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. They have a team around them. They are people around them that they delegate to, but they don't necessarily trust everybody. They don't trust them with their deepest, darkest thoughts. They don't trust them in terms of exposing their vulnerabilities. And so they hold a lot in and they feel a lot of times misunderstood by others. So they definitely feel a sense of isolation and that there's nobody that they can kind of open up with, expose themselves, and completely be vulnerable and transparent with. And we see that over and over and over again. That's why they reach out to a coach so that they can kind of unload quite a bit. So that's number one. Number two is we see that these leaders have strained relationships. And so, and in this case, you see personal relationship strain, but we also see a lot of professional relationship strain. And we see two kinds of strain. We see what we call overt strain, where people might yell at each other, they get into a fight, they're not talking to each other, and it's obvious that there's tension and that there's friction between two people, or sometimes more than two people. What I see more often, though, is what's called covert strain. And this is where a person might notice somebody else's behavior, maybe their lack of performance, maybe their inability to get on board, maybe their lack of responsiveness, and they don't have time to address it. And so they say, okay, I see what's going on. I'm not happy with performance. I'm not happy with what I'm seeing, but I have so much on my plate. I just can't address this right now. And so they lift up the carpet, they sweep it under the carpet, and this mound grows, and the stress grows, and the tension grows. And what we see is a lot of these leaders live with that kind of tension with multiple people in their lives. It's not uncommon. Number three is what we see as chronic dissatisfaction. What does that mean? These are typically people who want to achieve a lot, and perhaps they've already achieved a lot, but for them, they see themselves as not being where they should be or ought to be or could be. They feel like they're living under their potential. They're not maximized. Sometimes they achieve things, but that achievement is good for about a week, and then they want something more. They're ready for more. It's not enough for them. But what we also see with these people is a high sense of guilt and stress. And what I mean by guilt is they feel like they're not performing up to standard and they don't know why that is. And they are wondering, is it them? Is it the people around them? Like, what's holding them back? And what's getting in the way? They are so focused on getting something accomplished that they tend to neglect other things. And so that creates a great deal of guilt for them. And number four is what I call slippage. And this is where it's a term I invented actually, and it's where these leaders tend to let a lot of things slip through the cracks. Things like their health, their nutrition, their sleep. Maybe they're eating too much, drinking too much, definitely not having enough fun. They come home after a day at work, they sit in front of the TV, they're watching Netflix, but then they're on their phone at the same time. They're not really present in their relationships, and they ask themselves, like, is this what life is supposed to be about? Like this is not what I expected. And I'm just curious if anybody's interested in commenting in the chat room. And like, does this resonate for any of you? Does this sound like you? Does this sound like your clients? Is this where any of them struggle? Love to hear from some of you. And Gary, yeah, I'm curious what the chat room is saying.
Help if I wasn't on mute. So I've got some Charlisa is saying yes all over the place. I'm jumping in and says sounds like where my clients are from time to time. So totally agree. All four definitely. Oh, here we go. I'd add unanticipated consequences.
Oh, I'm interested in hearing more about that.
That was from Dennis.
Yeah, so things come up that we don't
People
expect.
living in the past and future rather than the present.
Big
Uh,
time. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so
Uh,
here's the stuff we see, right? Anything more?
I think that slippage resonated with me for sure, and all of them sound like issues my clients have had. So
Yeah.
a few more of those commentaries.
So
Back to
we we're starting to kind of like understand where people are plagued, and that's important. But as a coach, and I'm talking to coaches here in the room, I want you to grab a piece of paper and just write down your answers to these three questions. More than anything, what do you want? Think about it from a coaching standpoint. Then number two is on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this to you? And number three, what's getting in the way? Why don't you have it right now? I'll give you like a minute to think about that. And I'd love for you to share some of it in the chat room as well. What do you want? Keep this in mind. So, what do you want? How important is it to you? And what's getting in the way? Why don't you have it right now? So, keep that written in front of you. And then I'm going to ask you the next question, which is, in your opinion, what are the most significant challenges of running a coaching business? And I'd really like for you to write that in the chat box. Like, I want to hear from everybody. What are your challenges? What have your challenges been? Think about what your challenges are now and think about what your challenges have been when you started. Dennis, I promise you I'll answer your question. Michael C says, being all in, I'm too comfortable with the way my life is with, sorry, with my life the way it is. Any challenges? What are your challenges as a coach? Anybody have challenges? Lead generation, attracting new clients and figuring out how to keep producing fresh content on my social media page. Yeah, I can relate to that. Getting regular one-on-one clients.
That's me.
Yep. I want to transition from FTE is what, full-time?
Full-time equivalent, full-time employee.
Okay, into a strong coaching business, but financial constraints. Okay, great. Defining my value. Thank you, Harry. Getting client to identify ROI on their investment. You're speaking my language. And finding clients. All right, let's go. Thank you. Thank you for posting some of that. We're going to address it all. And Dennis, I promise you I will answer all your questions. So, what I've discovered is here are the most uh, challenging issues for coaches that they've expressed to me and that I've experienced over the years. Somebody said lead generation, 100%. Asking for a fair price. Like that's always uncomfortable. Building trust quickly, learning your clients and knowing really what's going on for them and doing that quickly and efficiently. Client results, so that's the ROI. Acknowledging or getting acknowledgement from your clients that you're actually making a difference in their lives because half the time they say, well, it was coincidence, right? Something along those lines. How do I really know it's a result of coaching? Getting repeat business. I love repeat business, but I love referrals even more. How do you do that? Time. You're always either coaching or selling, and there's never enough time to do either. And then for me, we're in a service-based business. How do we scale? How do we scale the coaching business when we are doing it all? From social media to coaching to sales to, staying in touch with our clients, etc. So you're here because you do want to learn to do all of these things. You want to learn to establish trust with your clients quickly. You want to, so my obsession, by the way, what is my obsession? My obsession is delivering unbelievable, mind-blowing coaching experiences. That is my obsession. It has been my obsession since the beginning of time. It continues to be my obsession. And some of the answers to these questions will come from that same obsession. So I'm going to share with you, but how to deliver transformational coaching. And that is the key right there. How to know your clients deeply, how to keep the conversation going in between coaching calls. Doesn't everybody hate that silence in between calls? I I think it's brutal. And so how do you keep it going? How to go deep with your clients, how to deliver outstanding coaching not just once but consistently. That consistency is very, very important. How to deliver tangible results, but also how to help your clients see what the ROI is very, very clearly and how to get referrals with ease. So yes, if you're here for that, you're in the right place. So let's talk about that. So again, number one question I've always had, and I think that is important for you to have, is how do you deliver extraordinary coaching? And that's the key right there. Extraordinary coaching so that your clients come back over and over and over again and are happy to spend money with you. And not only that, I'll add one more thing in. Not only are they happy to spend money with you, they're happy to tell people that they should spend money with you too. So that's the number one question. And if we could answer that question, all of our challenges will be addressed. So here's my coaching story, and I'll tell you where I came from and where I am now, and all of how all of those challenges were addressed. Number one is many, many years ago, before I started in the coaching industry, I used to own an assessment firm. That company was called Upward Motion. And we used to build simulation based assessments. And the purpose of those assessments was to help companies make better hiring decisions and identify who had more likelihood of succeeding in any given role or position. And one of the things that we discovered when we tested these hundreds and thousands of people was that the one key to success, no matter what industry, no matter what role, was resilience. The higher the level of emotional resilience, the more likely they were to succeed. So I ran that business for about 10 years, and it was quite successful, except that I ran it with two partners. One of them was my ex husband. And we ran it successfully until our marriage broke down and we decided to go separate ways. And when that happened, I ended up selling off my business and I was left kind of trying to figure out where my life was going to go. I suddenly found myself single with two kids and no job. And I didn't know what to do with myself. And I felt like the weight of the world was crashing down on me. It was hard for me because I was still fairly young and I was out of my element. I, felt like the rug was pulled out from under me and I really didn't know what direction to turn in next. And so I journaled a lot. I wrote everything down. And I don't know if any of you have ever been divorced, but it's a hard emotional experience to go through. And I wanted to go through that divorce with as much grace and dignity as I could muster. And some days it wasn't easy to have the kind of grace that I wanted to have. I had very, very strong emotions and I didn't know what to do with them. And so I wrote them down. And it helped me just unload and just like get out from underneath the weight of those emotions. And it helped me clear my plate and it helped me get clarity on the kind of relationship I wanted and where I was going and what kind of job I wanted and what kind of impact I wanted to have in the world. And it just really, really helped me to clear through and work through a lot of the difficulty that divorce comes with and give me some sense of where I was heading to next. And honestly, being a single mother isn't always easy either. And so it helped me kind of manage myself in the face of my kids who weren't always well behaved at the time. And I read a lot. I read a lot of self-help books. One of the books that I read was Why Marriages Fail, and I read about leadership, and I read about, personal development, and I read about emotions, and I read about thoughts, and I read about beliefs, and I just read and read and read. I'm a big, huge reader, and I just kept reading a lot of books. And shortly after I sold my company, I actually got hired by a coaching company here in Toronto, and I lasted about maybe 8.5 or 9 months. And I discovered that I was unemployable because as an entrepreneur, it's really hard to work for somebody else. But I was working for this coaching company. They hired me because I had grown a successful business in their industry. I was in the real estate industry to a great extent. One of our simulations, one of our assessments was in the real estate industry. And I actually won an award for being one of the top 50 most influential women in real estate. And so it was very well known. And they hired me to come and help them grow their coaching business that offered coaching in the real estate industry. And I got to observe how they coach. And I realized that number one, it was really hard for me to work for someone else. And the other thing I discovered as I was observing how they coach is I really felt like they were doing it poorly and that they were missing a very big component of what was important in coaching. And their model for coaching at the time, like keep in mind, this is like now maybe 21, 22 years ago. Their model for coaching was strictly accountability based. And what that meant was that they would bring in a client, they would help them create a business plan with all these components. And their job as a coach was simply to hold them accountable, making sure that they did all the things they needed to do on this plan. And so one of the questions I kept asking myself is like, why do they need someone else to hold them accountable to make sure that they do all their things? Like, what's going on here? What's getting in the way of them executing the things that they know they need to do? And I was confused about that. And I thought, well, maybe it's the way they think. Maybe it's the way they feel about themselves. Maybe it's their confidence. Maybe it's, their fears. Maybe it's their belief systems. And that's when I decided to go out on my own. And I really felt like I could do a better job in coaching people using a different model, really looking into their thinking systems as opposed to simply looking at their behaviors and making sure they were doing all the things. And so I started my own company called Frame of Mind Coaching. The thing is that I didn't go to coaching school. And so I had a ton of fears. I was terrified. And so when I look back at that time, my absolute number one concern was, how do I deliver exceptional coaching? How do I deliver the kind of coaching that leaves a mark, that is memorable, that leaves a lifelong impact? How do I do that? But again, I had all these fears. I didn't have any experience. I didn't have the PCCs and MCCs behind my name. I was selling coaching to the real estate world because I knew people there, and that was my market. Those were my people, but I didn't really know real estate. I knew assessments. I didn't know real estate, and I was terrified. And my another fear that I had was, if I have a coaching call for 1 whole hour, what the heck am I going to talk about for 1 whole hour? And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to fill this time? And I really thought, will they even pay me for this? Right? Like, who am I? Why would they pay me? I don't have the backup. I don't have anything. And so it was a long shot when I started my coaching business. And what I did was I started a pilot program. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to test this out. And I addressed some of these fears. For starters, I decided to coach a group of people instead of one on one. Why a group of people? Because if I had 5 people in a group and everybody talks for 5 or 10 minutes, then the hour will pass really fast. And I won't be feeling so stressed about filling that hour. The other thing I did early on in my coaching days, actually my first ever coaching group, is that I hired a guy to co-coach with me, someone who was an expert in real estate, just in case they had real estate questions that I didn't know how to answer. And so from the very beginning, I thought, what I really want to do is I want to get in their heads, and I want to understand how they see the world and how they see themselves and how they deal with problems and challenges. And so from the very, very beginning, I asked them to journal in a private and secure online journal. All right. I focused on mindset. I didn't focus on real estate. I focused on how they think. I decided to coach a group instead of one on one from the get go. And I asked them to journal. At the time, it was like blogger.com. It wasn't a safe or secure online journaling platform. But I gave them questions that they would answer every single week, and they would journal together. And my job was to read their journals and respond to them every single day. And again, I hired this guy to work with me. And what I discovered was that I was onto something that I didn't know I was onto. I started off with giving them 10 weeks of coaching. So they would receive a new journaling prompt every single week. Every week we had a call, and I would record the call so that they could listen to the recordings in between sessions. So they would get a double dose of coaching, and that whatever they learned in coaching would be reinforced. And then I asked them to journal every single day, even on the weekends. And I would be on the other side of those journals, reading and responding to the journals. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to have a strong hold over the coaching process. I wanted to know what was going on in between coaching calls. And I was shocked at the results I got. Number one is people were really open. They really shared some of their deep, dark stuff in their journals. Things that they wouldn't necessarily share in the group calls, they wrote it in the journals. And I saw them in ways that I wouldn't have access to normally. They definitely weren't interested in real estate. They didn't even like the guy that I brought on. They said, we don't need him anymore. They supported each other in the group, so they would read each other's journals as well. And they experienced tremendous results in a short period of time. And I was shocked because I didn't know that I could actually deliver results because I was brand new at this. And so some of the results that they experienced at the time were, I'll share them with you in a minute, but let me give you a sample of what the journals look like. So here's an example of a journal, and this is a journal that was written many years ago, but here it is. I guess I don't like conflict in personal relationships. Not that I think everything should always be roses and honey, but that disagreement means that we've made a mistake getting married. I'm not sure why, even though my parents got divorced, they rarely fought or showed any real disagreement. On the other hand, we spent a lot of time with one another, with another married couple when I was young, Susie and Larry, and they fought a lot in a way that I felt was disrespectful and harmful. Oops, sorry. I think maybe it's that I don't have a good role model for a marriage that has healthy conflict. In my relationships, there has never been a lot of conflict, and I think I'm not very prepared for it. What am I really afraid of? I guess that I will discover something that will mean we shouldn't be together or that we won't be able to resolve easily. So, like in this particular journal, what we're seeing is a great amount of fear and how that's affecting his relationship. And some beliefs around what disagreement means and how, you know, if there is a sense of disagreement, that that's an indicator that a relationship is unhealthy. So what that also gave me an indicator of is this is a guy who actually doesn't know how to disagree in a healthy manner. And so the coaching went in all kinds of different directions than I had originally anticipated. Right? So journaling is teaching you about a client in ways that you could never imagine. But here were some of the success stories we had. I had one woman, again, my first ever coaching session 20 something years ago, who was not sleeping at all. She had the lights on all the time because she was going through a terrible divorce and she would not allow herself to sleep. So for maybe a 2 year period, she was not sleeping. And one thing that happened as a result of this coaching is she turned off the lights. And it sounds like a little thing, but it's not. One woman fought a lot less with her kids. They were having better relationships, more sex, better results at work, increased revenue. Uh, I remember one person got a promotion and they were getting more respect and appreciation from coworkers. And I was stunned at these early results, very, very stunned, because I didn't expect those kinds of tangible outcomes early on in my coaching experience, because at the time I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of feeling my way around and figuring it out as I went. What I discovered is that without journaling, there's a disconnection between calls, right? There's a silence. And when that silence happens, we're sitting on the other end as a coach and we're saying, gee, I wonder if that coaching session actually landed. I wonder if it had an impact. I thought it was good, but did they think it was as good as I thought it was? Are they going to take action on this conversation that we had? Did it really make a difference? And what's happening is that when they're not journaling, you're not getting any immediate feedback from the client about the quality of that call. But in addition to that, when you're not journaling, what happens? You show up on a call and you have zero control. And basically you say, "Hi client, what would you like to talk about today?" And so the client may or may not be talking about what's important or what's vital to help them move forward, right? They're guessing what's important. When you're reading a journal, and I'll share that in a minute, you're able to see what's important and you have a place to identify the things that need to be discussed. So you're always wondering about, hey, did I actually have an impact? Am I really a good coach? And I can't tell you how many coaches I've encountered that feel like imposters. It's unbelievable. Every single time that you meet up with your client and they have not journaled, what are you doing? You're catching up. So, hey, what happened last week? Or fill me in. We talked about X, Y, and Z last week. What's happened since then? It's difficult to prove your value again because there's no clarity over the impact that you have because you're not tracking it in any kind of way. And as a coach, you could really be insecure. You can feel a lack of confidence. And the worst part about it is that your business is unstable, right? Everybody said, I want more one on one clients. How do I get that? And it feels like, oh, I got lucky this time. I got a new client instead of this constant flow of clients. By the way, please write in the chat box. Can you relate to any of this? Love to hear from people in the chat box. Anybody responding in the chat box? Oh, uh,
Yes.
yeah, I can absolutely relate to this. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, just to go with that one about loss of precious coaching time just to catch up, right?
yeah,
So you could easily spend 5, 10 minutes just doing that. And if you had journaling, you would have already read that and could be talking about what they journaled about.
exactly. So with journaling, you're
I'm sure
getting constant.
I'm sure you're going to reach out and tell us
Yeah,
about with
yeah.
journaling.
All right. So what's happening? You're getting constant feedback from the client. You get off the phone with your client and your client is journaling the very next day. And so you know the impact because you're still in the conversation. You're still in the discussion. You're still talking about what you were talking about and more and more and more. The other thing is when you get to the call, basically, this is how I do it anyways. I get onto the call and based on the last week's journals and maybe the week before, I come in and I say, there are 5 things I want to talk about. Is there anything you want to talk about? And so I come in prepared. I come in knowing some of the areas that are really holding this person back. I come in with clarity about some of the beliefs they have that are getting in the way of their happiness, their performance, their great relationships, etc. And so I'm not just a coach who sits there waiting for the client to give me something. I'm there delivering value because I've been able to pick up patterns, patterns of thought, patterns of behavior, their values, their priorities. It's all there right in front of me. And so I'm dramatically more equipped to knock it out of the park every single call. So I'm not sitting like idly just waiting for the client to run the show. They hired me to lead the coaching process, and here I am leading the coaching process. What else am I getting with journaling? I have very, very quick intimacy. Why? Because they're journaling all their most private thoughts, and I am on the other end reading and responding. So I'm present. And the more present I am, the more they trust me, and the deeper we can go, and the more ground we can cover. So I'm not only getting data points from them on a 1 hour coaching call every week or every other week, I'm getting data points from them every single day. That gives me access to more of them. So I really get to know my clients. And I mean, I have a feeling, I have a very strong thought that a lot of coaches try to coach without really knowing their clients well enough because they don't have enough exposure to them. um, I'm not skimming the surface. I'm going deep and I'm going quickly. And so, again, I'm coaching leaders. Speed is really important. Like, how many times does a coach or a client say, hey, like, I'm really enjoying this, but I'm not really sure what I'm getting out of it? That doesn't happen with me. They see it, it's immediate and it's instant. Let's talk about ROI for a minute because that's really, really important. How do I track ROI for my client? Well, on day one, they say I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. And on day, let's say 50, it's in their journals. X, Y, and Z is still being discussed, but now they're handling it really differently. And all I need to do is show them these two journals to show them the difference in their emotional state, but be in how they're behaving with the same stimulus. So let's say they're struggling with Bob. We're not coaching Bob, we're coaching Mary. And Bob doesn't change, but Mary's ability to handle Bob changes. And we see it in writing. It's tangible because they're writing it and they're tracking it down. And we're able to show it to them. And it's shocking to them because it's in their own writing, right? So the power of this is unreal, right? Because we're documenting their profit, their progress. And we're keeping, I call it the safety deposit box for their story and their most private feelings. When you're holding that safety deposit box, I mean, what do you do with your safety deposit box? You go back to it eventually. And so the relationship you're building with them is really, really unprecedented. And because you're reading and responding to their journals every single day, you're present every single day. Like, we've heard of Olympic coaches, right? Coaches that serve Olympic athletes. Do they see their athletes once a week, once every 2 weeks? No, they spend every minute of every day with them building up to the Olympics, right? They're completely present. And in this world, we're not as present. And I invite you to be an Olympic level coach. Be with your clients. And when you're an Olympic level coach, you can command higher prices. Why? Because your impact, your mark is visibly there. You're showing up every single day and reading and responding to their journals. And so they say, yes, I see the work she or he is doing. It's evident. I know I'm getting really excited about all of this, right? Um, Retention is high. They come back. They might take a break, but they come back. How many times do we start off our clients with 10 weeks of coaching, but then they want more, they want maintenance, so we keep them for like years and years and years. And that gives us some idea of what our revenues are going to be month to month to month to month, right? We're not starting at zero all the time because we do have maintenance clients. Marketing is easy because they are marketing for you. They've had such an outstanding experience that they send you referrals, right? So I actually suck at social media personally. I'm not good at it. And if I had to depend, can I tell you how many clients I've um, received from social media? Zero, not one. How many clients have I received from my newsletter? I don't know. I've been in this business for 20 years, maybe five. And those are all return clients, probably, right? So that's not how we're doing it. That's not how we're succeeding. I want to stop and just take a break for a second. Are there any questions about this? Because I know it's a crazy idea. I know that probably you're thinking, yeah, but what if they don't want to journal? Maybe you're thinking, well, that's a lot of work reading and responding to everybody's journal every day. Like, what are you thinking? I want to hear the questions.
Well, funny you should say that. Candida asked, first of all, said, I totally love the idea. Can you also talk about potential problems you might have encountered? The platform, confidentiality, and what you just mentioned, workload.
Okay, so the platform is that we ended up creating our own platform and we use that and we license it out. And it's private, it's secure, and you as the coach have control over the journaling prompts you're sending, how often you're sending, how you read and respond to your clients' journals. It's all in your control. And so, again, I've been doing this for 20 years. Our software is we keep updating it, so it's modern, it's new, it's super easy to use. What were the other questions?
From Dennis, how much skepticism do you receive from clients when you first suggest that they journal, and second, when they know you will be seeing their entries?
So zero, they hire me because of my level of attention.
Awesome. Sally asked, how many clients are you coaching at once, or a typical client load? Since it seems that you are taking more time with each client using this coaching strategy.
Yeah, honestly, it just depends on timing. So, for example, I'm just launching a new group, and I have 18 people in the group, plus I have my one-on-one coaching clients. And then hopefully today we'll talk about another course. So, uh, over time, you get faster and faster at reading and responding to journals. and it's not so taxing. It doesn't feel like a workload. What it feels like is amazing because you're actually delivering value, and you never question the relationship you have with the client because the client is so present with you and you're so present with them. And so you're really developing the kind of relationship that doesn't exist anywhere else, right? Like, who in the world can rely on someone to show up every single day of their lives? Doesn't exist, but that's going to be you. So what happens? The value they place on you and their relationship with you is through the roof.
Mike asked, what are the questions that you ask people? You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, so it depends on the kind of coaching you do. And so I have a certain group of questions, a set of questions that I ask clients, and it takes them through a journey. And I'm interested in a very particular journey for me. I'm interested in what's going on in the present, what happened in the past. Let's go back to the present to see how your past impacted the present. And now let's plan your future and look at what you're going to be going to. So the questions are based on that journey, right? But you can create any questions you want. If you're a weight loss coach, create questions related to, I don't know, emotional eating. If you're a business coach and they're just doing business related stuff, look at their business challenges, look at how they're leading, look at how, their team is performing, etc. It just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
What
that's something
what
we
worked
can
in
change.
what worked in the past that and what didn't work in the past.
Exactly.
Having them look at why that might be, and
Exactly.
whatever ideas they
There's an unlimited number of questions we can ask, and we can create any kind of journey. And what's really interesting is we can change the journey as we're going. We can think, okay, we're going to go this way, and then the client suddenly comes with some kind of an emergency, and you take a sharp right turn, and that's okay too, right? You don't have to stick to your original plan. You can be nimble. So there's so much that's possible. You can test out one journey with one client. You're like, oh, okay, well, out of my 10 questions, 7 were good, but I want to change these 3. You can change them for the next time around. And so you have a lot of flexibility in what you're doing, what you're creating.
Can you give us a couple of examples of those questions?
So my favorite question to start off with is always the same, no matter who we're coaching. It's always this week, and I usually give this journaling prompt before my first call with them, so I have a week's worth of journaling before we actually even start coaching together. And the question is, monitor your mood. So what's happening in your life, and how is that making you feel? And so what I'm doing is just getting a baseline of what's going on in their world day to day. What are their relationships like? What's their work world like? And how are they feeling about it all? How are they responding to the stimulus that's coming their way? Are their relationships healthy? Are they frustrated with something? Like, just give me whatever you want to give me to start off with. And then we go down the road and I ask about their relationships, and I ask about their history, their most defining moments. And I ask about, let me give you a good one. Okay. In about week 8 or 9, I always ask this one question. It's the journaling prompt is to write an ideal conversation between themselves and anyone they want. Could be someone dead, someone alive, someone famous, someone they have a mad crush on. It doesn't really matter. And I'll give you a story about it. Years and years ago, and it's not an uncommon story, it's just a good one. Years and years ago, I was coaching this woman who was the VP of sales for an up and coming technology firm. And she decided that she was going to write an ideal conversation between herself and the Obama administration. And the reason she wanted to do that was because in her ideal world, she wanted to become Secretary of State. And so in this ideal conversation, she wrote the interview. She wrote about, she wrote about um, so they brought her in for the interview, and they said, we've read your resume, but tell us in your own words what qualifies you for this position. And in her journal, she wrote about all her qualifications. She wrote about the fact that her family came from Japan, and they came to the United States and started a business and contributed to the US economy. She shared about her business degree. She shared about her work experience. Then she wrote a 10-point plan about all the things she was going to do in her role as Secretary of State. And at the bottom of her journal, she wrote me a personal note. She said, "How's that for dreaming big?" What do you think? Is that dreaming big?
Mhm. Very much so.
Very much so, but not really, because in this ideal conversation, she never actually gave herself the job. And when I asked her, "Why didn't you give yourself the job in your ideal conversation?" she said, "I didn't think it was appropriate. It was too aggressive. It wasn't polite." And when we looked at her sales, she was amazing at all the sales presentations, but she was never asking for the sale. Why? Inappropriate, too aggressive, not
Not
polite,
polite.
right? That was her belief system that came out as a result of this journaling prompt. Now, what was super interesting is with this particular client is that once she realized what she was doing, and she realized she was letting all this business like just sit on the table, she wasn't closing anything. The next quarter, she sold more than she did the whole entire previous year. So
Of
we
course.
can have tangible change. We can make a difference. But yes, any other questions in the chat room?
Yeah, we have one from Leslie. If you and your coaches do not share a common written language, do you recommend using audio instead of writing as a way to still be able to offer some of the journaling benefits?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question well.
Uh, Leslie, you want to come on off mute and explain
Yeah.
a little more?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Yes, I actually meant, I think the computer spell checked for me, unfortunately. If you and your coachees, so the person with whom you're coaching, if
Hmm.
Okay.
if you don't share a common written language, so therefore you cannot use journaling, do you suggest using audio instead or not using this method?
If you don't share a common language, you need to find some common language to coach someone, right? So like if it's like if you speak English and they speak French, is that what you mean?
No, written language. So you're speaking okay. I mean,
Oh,
you both
yeah.
can
So
you both can
yeah.
communicate that way.
So I'm a big fan of the written word because people will write things in a way that they don't say them. And what you're capturing is actually language. Why is language important? Because the language that people use is the story they live. So we want language, we want written word, we want all of that. It's really important. So if I didn't speak the same language, I would use some kind of a translate feature somewhere to translate it so that I was able to understand what I'm reading and then
Oh, okay.
respond. Yeah,
Okay,
but
so you
I
can still offer. Okay, thank you.
100%.
Thanks, Leslie.
Vocabulary is so interesting because the words that people use will tell us what their belief systems are.
Dennis asks, so you group coach and personally coach the individuals in the group? That's part one. Part two,
Um,
how do the individuals feel about the other members of the group seeing their entries?
Okay, so I do two things. Number one, I do mostly one-on-one coaching, so nobody's seeing anything. And then I do group coaching, and usually the group has some common challenge or common objective. Okay, so they're not right, they're there for a reason. And what I have found is that there's a huge benefit to having each other read and respond to one another. So they're not only getting me, now suddenly the value of this system has dramatically increased because they're getting input, attention, commentary from other people. So it's even better. It's definitely a plus. The more that other people are participating and actively engaged, the better your group is.
And that's it for questions for the time being.
Okay, great. So thank you. Let's carry on. So what I want to do is introduce something, and it's called Intro to JBC. And what is JBC? It's journal-based coaching. And what I've discovered is that there are many, many coaches out there who are on their own, out there pounding the pavement with no actual coaching system. And I can't be more emphatic about how this could change the game for you. And so I've created a course called Intro to JBC. And remember the goal, I have one single goal, is to help you deliver this transformational, extraordinary coaching experience for your clients so that you're doing all the things you need to do, and addressing all the challenges that you have. So let me describe how it works. It's 5 weeks. There's a call every week. You're going to be able to practice reading and responding to journals that you are provided. You'll be getting feedback from me and perhaps from other people in the class on your work. You'll have access to the journaling platform, so you'll see what it looks like and feels like. It is a course, it is not coaching, but you'll still get a feel for the journaling platform. You'll be able to learn how to position your coaching for clients, um, so that you're asking for referrals, and so that you're also able to identify where you can find referral opportunities from. And just to give you a sense, when I'm reading someone's journal, they talk about other people in their journals. And some of those people become my clients because I'm able to identify very easily where referral opportunities are. You'll have one-on-one time with me. So I will schedule one-on-one time with you so that we can go over your personal coaching business and look where the opportunities to make some tweaks and enhancements. It could be your pricing is too low. It could be that, hey, Kim, can you go over my journaling prompts with me? It could be anything. And help you create a unique client journey with your journaling prompts. So I gave you an idea of some of my prompts, but we'll create yours together. And so that you'll have a set of 10 journaling prompts that you can use, but I'm happy to share mine too if you want. Once you work with me, I'm completely open. I give you everything that I have, and it's super, super transparent. You'll learn how to read journals and select what's important to focus on. So sometimes people write a lot, and the question is, okay, so how do I respond to this journal? What's important here? What's not important? What are what I call the big rocks? And how do I ignore the rest? Should I ignore the rest? How do I prioritize what I'm reading? So how to respond so that the conversation continues, not so that it's just passive and the conversation drops like a rock. How to identify themes and patterns, limiting beliefs and blind spots. Because when you can help your clients see what they cannot see themselves, that's when you're adding value. And how to leverage journals for coaching sessions. So how to read what you need to read and then say, okay, here's my agenda for the next coaching session. So how to come in prepared. You'll also learn how to create a coaching journey for your clients. So create your own journaling prompts, how to position your coaching. So Dennis asked me, like how do your clients react when you tell them you want them to journal? So, and I'm telling you, it's actually a plus, it's a benefit. You're definitely positioning yourself head and shoulders above all other coaches because you're delivering so much more. How to price and package your coaching services appropriately, how to explain the value of journaling and the process and how it works, and really how to create like a lead generation strategy using journaling and what that looks like. You'll learn how to demonstrate the ROI, even though I kind of gave you a little bit of a clue, how to capture notable testimonials. So when clients journal, they're literally writing testimonials in their journals that you could pull out and use. How to manage your time to include journaling, how to ask for referrals, and how to keep your clients coming back for more. Plus, you'll get a 1 hour strategy call with me. And you can just imagine how fun that could be. You'll get 3 months of Journal Engine Course Runners, which is the software that we use. Course Runners will allow you to use it with at least one client. And you'll be able to participate for 6 months in what's called Kim's Coaching Corner. So once a month, I have a group that I gather of coaches who come on and ask any question they want related to coaching. It could be for themselves. It could be I have a client who's struggling with this and this and this. How do I respond to that? It could be here's the journal I got. How do I respond to it? Or what would you do with it? So it's anything goes. There are no rules. I come and I just show up, and anything that anybody wants to talk about, I help them through with that. And all that for just $1,200. Yes, total value is 4,281. Yes. And I just want you to know, and I don't know if you get a sense of this from me, but when I'm leading something, I'm 100% all in. What that means is, like, yes, you're in a course, but that's it. I'm in your life from here on in. Like, you're stuck with me. You're stuck with me, and I will personally give you everything you need to succeed with journal-based coaching. I'll get involved. If, like, in the middle of this, it could be a Saturday and you send me a journal, you're like, help, I will respond as much as I'm able to. Right? I'm still human, but I'm there. I'm there. I'm responsive. I'm quick, and I will help you do this so that you are very effective.
Kim,
One of
I'm
the
reminded of
questions,
your statement early in the beginning about how you see the coaching, your commitment to coaching.
yeah, I, for me, like, if we're gonna do this, we have to, I don't know. I never wanted to be a coach that was forgotten. You know,
Hmm.
I wanted to be a coach that made a massive difference in the lives that people of the people that I serve. And I will tell you that 20 years later, I'm still in touch with the people that I coached 20 years earlier. And so, and why is that? Because we did make a difference, because the relationship was so solid, because of all that.
They trusted you. There was confidence quickly
Yes.
built.
So I want to share with you something that it wasn't in my presentation and maybe it should have been, but when I first started coaching, like, remember that pilot that I ran with the 5 people? When I first started coaching, I didn't know how much to charge. I knew I had to charge something just to get skin in the game. First time I coached this group of 5, I charged them each $100 for 10 weeks of coaching. So I made $500. And I remember I told you that I got this guy who was co-coaching with me. I paid him $1,000 to co-coach this course. So do the math. How much did I make?
You didn't. You lost
I I
money.
lost money. So 20 years later, and you know what happened was I slowly increased my rates. I went from $100 to 250 to 500 to 750 and on, right? The more confidence I gained, the more I charged. Now, for a one-on-one coaching session, I'm charging 18,000 US dollars for 10 weeks of coaching. And some people think it's not enough. So do I feel comfortable with that price? Absolutely, because I know the value I'm delivering. And I can't tell you how many coaches I come across that are not charging nearly enough for their coaching. And the reason for that is because they're not confident in what they're delivering. They don't know with certainty that the person in front of them will walk away with value. I do. Okay, so I know that you don't care so much about price, but it's very important in terms of thinking about what's possible for you. Okay, here are the details. First class starts March 4th at noon Eastern. You'll get a calendar invitation with a Zoom link for each class. You'll get an invitation to set up your profile and start journaling within our journaling platform on March 4th. So March 4th is the first call, but then you'll start journaling right after that. And then you'll get an invitation to Kim's Coaching Corner. And it's the first Thursday of every month, also at noon. We love noon because it enables people on both sides of um, the the countries, US and Canada, to participate. And you'll book a one-on-one strategy session with me personally. Next steps, sign up. Here's the link. And here's the information. Sorry, I moved it. Okay. Any other questions
Uh,
about
Mi-
journaling, about the
Michael had some
course?
questions, but he also said, I guess you answered the question for him, so there are no
Okay.
more for that. He also said, it sounds like an excellent opportunity. Yes, and I hope you take advantage of it. This is Kim's for real. Like there is no question she still has people talking to her that she met 20 years ago. When you get to meet Kim and get in touch with her authenticity and her commitment, it's amazing, an amazing experience. I've worked with her off and on for those 20 years, and I know from my standpoint what a great and authentic person she is. So thank you.